My name is Joe Reichert. I'd like to welcome you to my YouTube channel. This is the Saab Doctor. And I'd like to introduce you to the cheapest 2010 9.5 in the United States of America. So this car is the cheapest 2010 9.5 in America. And when I say that, it is the... Actually, it's probably the cheapest 9.5 that's been sold in America, is my guess. Now, I'm going to say this isn't an auction car. It isn't a salvage title car. It's not a flood car. It's not a... I don't own a dealership. It's not a car that you couldn't buy. This car was $1,000, private party on Craigslist. Right about here is where I'm going to put the ad. Maybe it'll be on a screen or something. You can read through the ad and see that the car was listed for $1,200. The interesting part is the car was listed on Racine Craigslist, but the car was located in Menasha, which probably threw up a lot of red flags for people. For those of you that don't know, Menasha and Racine are about probably an hour and a half to 2 hours away from each other, and there's a few big cities with Craigslists in the middle, like Milwaukee and Appleton. So this car being listed on Racine Craigslist actually threw a red flag for a lot of people, including myself. The listing was sent to me by a friend of mine in North Carolina, and he was actually going to buy the car and have it shipped down there. When he was communicating with the previous owner said the rear differential was completely locked. My friend, upon finding that out and getting some shipping quotes, found out it would cost upwards of $3,000 to ship it from Wisconsin to North Carolina, decided to let me know about the car, and told me, hey, I'm going to let the guy know that you're interested. I'm going to give him your contact info so he knows to actually answer your call when you call. I called the owner of the car right away, of course, because it was such a great deal, and because I didn't have an NG95 in my fleet. I own 12 Saabs. Most people probably won't know that, but you're going to as I grow and build the channel up. So I went up there. I actually had a friend drive past first and make sure the car was actually there because I didn't want to get murdered with this crazy ad. And when I got there, the owner said the rear differential was locked. His mechanic, he had brought it to his mechanic because the service rear axle light had come on. His mechanic had changed the fluids, took it for a drive and said that the rear differential locked, and the mechanic had it towed back to his house, pretty much said, hey, sorry, your car broke. It's going to cost $4,000 to $5,000 to fix. The previous owner said he wasn't interested. The first thing I did was I asked the previous owner for the keys. He said the car is going to start and run just fine. Started the car, put it in drive, car rolled forward. I couldn't pull $1,000 out of my pocket fast enough. I'm pretty sure the owner was shocked, or previous owner I should say, was shocked at that point because he thought the car didn't even roll. Me being a shrewd negotiator, thank you Ed Bolian for that phrase, and not knowing how to keep my excitement down, the previous owner knew that the car was probably worth more, but since he had agreed with my friend on $1,000, he still took $1,000 for it. When I went to drive the car home, the previous owner said, the previous owner actually thought I was crazy. His comment was, so you're not going to have it towed? And I said, no. What's the worst that could happen? Wait till that car passes. I'm pretty sure that what's the worst that could happen is probably one of my favorite parting lines, and I drove it home. Made the 90-mile trip from Menasha back to my house without any issues. I shouldn't say without any issues, because the next portion is going to show you what's actually wrong with the car. So we'll go to that now, and then we'll come back, we'll do a walk around of the car, of the condition it's in, and then I'll leave you with the plans of what's going to happen next. Okay, so this is how the cheapest 2010 9.5 in the country drives, and this is how it was when I bought it. So when you take the car and you put it in drive, and you start driving forward, for example, and you turn the wheel, it's hard to hear, but the rear axle hops slightly. Now this may be easier to hear. Put the car in reverse. You can hear that grinding type noise. Now, I haven't put the car up in the air, but I'm guessing and hoping that it just has to do with the Halodex fluid. I'm backing it into the shop right now, actually. Now, I actually am going to try changing the differential fluid. My guess is that they used the wrong fluid in it. So what I have is actual diff fluid, Halodex fluid, the filter and gasket, and this is the transfer case fluid. I got this all from Saab parts. Unfortunately, I forgot to grab the tripod and the camera, which is why I'm filming this with my phone right now. So there won't be any footage of me changing it. But I'll explain in the segment afterwards what we do. But about to put the boat up on jack stands for the first time since I've had it. So I wasn't planning on filming underneath here while working on the cheapest 9.5 Aero in the country. But I kind of have to, because I have to show you what I found. Here is the problem. So the last owner said their shop said it needed a new rear diff. I took a peek. I saw it was a little wet and didn't think much of it. Oh, let's see if I can get a good picture. There we go. Yeah, the differential housing's cracked. So it does need a new rear diff, and it looks like I'll be finding that, and we'll be replacing that in a future episode. So hold tight, folks, and on to the rest of the program. That's not in the shop, of course. So now you've seen two things. Number one, I normally don't wear a polo when I'm doing this. I figured I'd actually dress in similar clothing to what I picture the original owner was wearing when they bought this approximately $50,000 new Gen 9.5 back in 2010. Interestingly enough, this car came from the exact same dealership that my wife's 2010 9.3 came from, that we bought, I'd call brand new. We bought it with 1,500 miles. It was one of their loaner cars, as was this. The other thing you've seen is that the rear differential housing is cracked. Now, I've actually sent that video and that picture to a few of my friends that are GM techs, and pretty much they've responded with, wow, and didn't really have words after wow. One of them did respond with the fact of the only time he's seen something like that was on a Turbo X when the rear differential ran out of fluid. So my only synopsis on this is, since the Halodex diff is two chambers, if you will, that the tech drained both chambers, took it apart, put Halodex fluid back in, and figured that the Halodex fluid would actually flow to the other side. That's my only guess. Without having the fluid on the other side, it got hot, it cracked, and then somehow I drove at 90 miles home without anything terrible happening, which is kind of the amazing part. Now, let's take a look through the car. This is pretty much going to be a quick overview. We aren't going to take it for a ride because we went for a short ride in the last portion of the video when I was wearing my amazing fluorescent Stay Dry shirt. So let's take a look. The first thing you'll notice is that the body is actually in surprisingly good shape. I mean, this is an 86,000 mile 2010. And other than a few scuffs, we've got one here that I'm going to, well, I won't be able to buff this out, but I'm definitely going to try and buff this bit out. Even though the paint's cracked. The taillights are in perfect condition. So is the light bar. May have to send those out and get the light bar done. But yeah, you can just see the body is in excellent shape. All the wheels have a little bit of curb rash. My cousin does powder coating, so I may actually send those to him. So let's take a look at the inside. Now here's one thing to remember. Back in the year 2010 was when Saab was going through some tough times. Spiker had just bought them. They were trying to rush these cars to the market as quickly as possible, which is why the 2010s didn't have a sunroof. The supplier actually didn't have the sunroofs ready when these cars were put out. So they slightly rushed this car to the market to try and make Saab profitable. You look at it, I haven't touched it at all. This is exactly as it came. So it smells a little bit like smoke. And you can tell, other than that Monster can that I did add on the ride home. No, this is not sponsored by Monster at all. There's, you know, some ashes. The car smells a little bit like smoke. Some of the buttons are missing. The ceiling needs a bit of a detail. Not a big deal. But I mean, overall, the interior is in phenomenal shape for 86,000 miles. Now, this is what we would look at as a base Aero. It doesn't have any of the cool stuff like cooled seats. It doesn't have the rear entertainment. It doesn't have navigation. It doesn't have a rear heated seat. But I mean, this thing is just gigantic. I feel like doing a Doug DeMuro moment. Hold on. Let's grab the tripod. And yes, all kinds of Saabs in the background and my shop. So let's grab the tripod. How much room is there in the back seat of a new Gen 9.5? Now, I'm not a very tall person, unlike Doug. Let's get this adjusted down enough. But there's tons of room. I mean, I could have a party in the back of this thing. Now, if this is anything like my last 9.5, it's probably going to be my favorite road trip car if I decide to keep it. I haven't made it that far. I do really, really like this car. But if I were personally looking for a 9.5 that I was going to spend all the money on, as I'd like to put it, I'd probably look for a 2011 that has all of the options, like navigation, cooled seats, the rear entertainment, all of that kind of stuff. But since this is the cheapest one in the country, I can't complain at all. So, I mean, little scuff in the leather here, not a big deal. I've never even pulled this down. Let's take a look. Oh, it's all in good shape. Got your pass-through. Whole 9 yards. So let's take a look. May as well look in the trunk. Actually, I have the key fob in my pocket. So, let's open her up. So yeah, this is an exhaust shield. Last owner said it fell off, or maybe turbo. No, it's not a turbo shield. Got to be an exhaust shield. So you can tell that it's been sitting around for a while because there's just stuff in it, and that'll all get detailed out. Trunk's just a little bit dirty. You know, I never looked under here. I feel like that might be missing. I mean, it probably didn't come with a spare tire, but it's at a minimum missing like an inflator kit or something. I'm not too worried about that. Let's just put this back. Now, I already grabbed the manuals and everything out of it. It did have a Wisconsin buyer's guide in it from the dealership it was sold at back in 2016. That buyer's guide said $15,995. I'm going to guess the previous owner didn't pay anywhere near that because normally you don't. And that was at a Buick GMC dealership. Here's the thing. This is one of those cars that had it come out earlier, probably could have saved Saab. It's a superbly built car. It's beautiful. It has a lot of amazing touches like, if we can get it to focus. Yeah. But it says Saab on the shifter. You know, it's just a good sized car overall. It's actually really, really large for a Saab. And of course it has, this car has the 2.8 liter 300 horsepower turbocharged engine, which is honestly a great engine. We have this engine, and it's not 300 horsepower in our 9.3 Sport Combi, but it's definitely a good engine. It is 300 horsepower in my 9.4X Aero, which is just, I mean, it's a great, a great fit for those vehicles. So, that's all the important bits on this car. Oh, I still can't believe I only paid $1,000 for that. It's amazing. So now your question probably is, what's next for this cheap NG95 Aero? Well, we're going to fix it, of course. I do all my work myself. We're going to make some, well, not we, I'm going to make some tutorials on what to do. Now, one thing I want to say is, I'm not a Saab tech. I'm not an ASE mechanic. I have no professional training. I'm a hobbyist. I do this all in my spare time for fun. So, you know, I'm going to put out a few tutorials, a few how-tos. Anytime you see something, it's something that I picked up myself, figured out. A lot of times I'll use the Saab Workshop Information System, otherwise known as WIS. It's a great tool. You can download it online. I'll actually put links to the Helidex service kit that I showed in the shop video that I bought from Saab Parts. I'll put that down in the link below. I'll put a link to WIS if I can find one in the box below. And next up, I'm actually going to probably post a couple of videos that I recorded back in February and April. I started recording for this channel a while ago. I didn't know what I wanted to do to launch it, and then I stumbled across this. And when I stumbled across this car, I decided, you know something? I want to share what I do with the community. I want people to be able to see it. So if you all could do me a huge favor, like, share, subscribe. Those three will help me not only build this channel and be able to keep this up, but be able to share tips, tricks, and cool things like this with you all. So, thank you for watching. Before I forget, you can follow me on Instagram at the Saab Collector or my Facebook likes page, Saab Doctor. Thanks again, and Saab on, folks.